It's not that written. No, you cannot. You cannot. You can't convict me. Are you insane? It's not possible. I'm Nnamdi Kanu. Who's going to try it? Nobody can. They've not killed them dead to the person.
You're probably aware that Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, has been at the center of controversy for years, and his court trial has been nothing short of dramatic. Recently, during one of the hearings, Kanu made a powerful statement to the presiding judge, Justice James Omotosho. You don't know law. And in a country where the justice system often finds itself under scrutiny, Kanu's words have reverberated through the courtroom and beyond. The reason for his outburst? He believes that the charges against him are not based on valid legal principles and that the court is ignoring Supreme Court rulings that should guide the proceedings. Now, for those of you following the case, you already know that the trial of Nnamdi Kanu isn't just about one man standing in the dock. It's a national issue with political, legal, and social implications that ripple far beyond the walls of the courtroom. You see, Kanu isn't just any ordinary defendant. He is the face of a movement that calls for the secession of Biafra from Nigeria, a topic that stirs up emotions and has deep roots in the history of Nigeria's civil war. So, when Kanu speaks out like this, it's not just a legal defense, it's a message that the system is broken and that the laws they are using against him are not only outdated, but also improperly applied. Let's take a moment to break down what exactly is happening here. Kanu's defense team argues that the law under which he is being charged is no longer valid, claiming that it was repealed some years ago. What's more, they argue that the court is refusing to comply with the Supreme Court ruling that should have led to his release, but for some reason, that's being ignored. Kanu, ever the strategist, doesn't hold back in calling out what he sees as judicial ignorance. This is where the drama unfolds. When Kanu says, "You don't know law," it's not just a personal attack on the judge, it's an accusation that the court is failing to uphold the law properly. This is serious stuff. If a judge doesn't know or doesn't follow the law, then what's left of justice? And while the courtroom may have seemed like just another day in the legal grind, this statement has sparked reactions everywhere. People are wondering if this trial is even legitimate. They're questioning whether the right legal procedures are being followed. It's not just Kanu on trial. It feels like the entire justice system is under a microscope, with every move being scrutinized. And as the tensions arise, one thing is clear. This trial could have consequences far beyond the individual charges against Kanu. It could set a precedent that affects how laws are applied in Nigeria for years to come. Now, let's take a step back and think about the broader picture. Kanu's statement about ignorance of the law isn't just a critique of the court system. It's also a reflection of a much bigger issue within Nigeria's legal and political structures. Over the years, we've seen various cases where court rulings are ignored, laws are not enforced, and people are left wondering if the justice system really works for them. Kanu's case brings these issues to the forefront,
shining a light on the cracks in the system that many people have been living with for years. It's not just about him anymore. It's about everyone who feels like the system isn't working in their favor. And let's not forget the political dimension of this. Kanu isn't a regular defendant. His case is tied to a larger political movement that seeks the independence of Biafra, a region in the southeastern part of Nigeria. For many, Kanu is seen as a hero fighting for the rights of the Igbo people and for justice in a system they feel has oppressed them for decades. For others, though, he is a troublemaker, someone who is stirring up division in a country that has fought long and hard to stay united. The implications of this trial reach far beyond Kanu himself, affecting the relationship between the government and the people of the Southeast. The outcome of this case could influence how the country handles future calls for secession and autonomy. But what exactly did Kanu mean when he said, "You don't know law"? Let's break it down a bit more. If the court is proceeding with charges based on a law that's no longer valid, then the foundation of the case is shaky at best. Imagine being accused of something based on outdated rules that no longer hold any legal weight. It would be like being judged by a rule book that no one else is using anymore. That's exactly what Kanu is claiming, that the charges against him are based on an obsolete law, and as a result, the entire case is fundamentally flawed. For him, this is about making sure the system works properly. He's calling out the fact that the law has changed, but the system hasn't caught up. And he's holding the court accountable for it. So why does this matter? Why should you care? Well, here's the thing. If Kanu's case is mishandled, it sends a message that the legal system is not transparent, that the law can be manipulated, and that people can be thrown into jail on charges that aren't even valid. And that, my friends, is a serious problem. Whether you're in Lagos, Enugu, or Abuja, if you believe in fairness, justice, and the rule of law, this case is a reminder that no one should be above the law and that everyone should be held accountable when they fail to follow the rules. But more than that, it's a reminder that the law must be applied consistently and fairly to everyone, no matter who you are. Now, let's talk about what happens next. Kanu has been given until the next court date to either defend himself or risk having his defense closed. But we all know that this is no ordinary trial. The world will be watching. The implications of this case stretch beyond the courtroom. It's not just about Kanu and his supporters anymore. It's about the credibility of the Nigerian justice system as a whole. Can the system stand up to scrutiny? Will the courts be able to defend the integrity of the process? Or will this case expose cracks that can't be fixed? This trial has already been marked by delays, changes in judges, and challenges to the charges against Kanu. It's clear that this is not just a legal battle, but a political one too. The outcome could have far-reaching consequences for Nigeria's relationship with its citizens, especially those in the southeastern region who feel marginalized by the government. It's about justice, but it's also about power, perception, and political control. As the court case unfolds, we'll be keeping a close eye on what happens next. Will Kanu's legal team succeed in their efforts to have the charges dropped? Will the court address the concerns about the validity of the charges and the failure to follow Supreme Court decisions? Or will this be just another chapter in a long and contentious saga? Whatever happens, one thing is certain. This trial will be remembered for a long time, and it will continue to shape the conversation about justice, politics, and the rule of law in Nigeria. Beyond Kanu's personal battle in the courtroom, this trial represents a much larger issue within the Nigerian legal and political system.
It's not just about one person's freedom or one charge. It's about the trust Nigerians have in their courts, their laws, and ultimately their government. We've seen cases like this before, where high-profile individuals challenge the system, and while it might seem like just another courtroom drama, it often speaks to larger issues of governance, fairness, and justice. And as Kanu continues to fight his case, his words, "You don't know law," will likely be echoed throughout legal circles, political debates, and even on the streets. For the average Nigerian, Kanu's statement is more than just a challenge to one judge. It's a direct attack on a system they feel is sometimes failing them. But let's go back to the heart of the matter, the law. Kanu's team has consistently argued that the charges against him are not only baseless,
but legally flawed. They point to the fact that the charges are based on an outdated law that's been repealed. Now, think about that for a second. If laws are constantly changing and evolving, how do we ensure that everyone is held accountable fairly? If a law is repealed, is it right to continue using it in court? These are questions that not only affect Kanu's trial, but could have major implications for anyone facing legal charges in Nigeria. In this case, Kanu has essentially said, look, the government can't just keep making the new laws that benefit them and then retroactively use old laws to punish people. That's what's at stake here, the integrity of the system. If the court continues to use an outdated law, it could set a dangerous precedent, not just for Kanu, but for everyone who faces the legal system.
This is why his statement is so significant. It's not just a defense strategy, it's a call to action, asking the court to get things right. But let's not forget that there's more at play here than just the legal technicalities. Politics, as always, plays a huge role. This isn't just a legal battle, it's also a political one. The trial is seen by many as a test of the Nigerian government's control over the Southeast. And when you have a figure like Kanu, someone who has mobilized large segments of the population and has strong regional support, you're not just dealing with a legal case, you're dealing with a movement. For some, Kanu is a hero, someone fighting for the rights of the Igbo people, but for others, he is a troublemaker, someone who threatens the unity of the country. The stakes are high, and the outcome of this trial could have far-reaching consequences for Nigeria's future. As we continue watching this unfold, it's clear that the trial is far from over. There are so many layers to this story: legal, political, and social. And as the next court dates approach, the tension will only build. Will the court address the allegations of ignorance of the law? Will they amend the charges based on the fact that they're using a repealed law? Or will Kanu's team be forced to continue fighting against a system they believe is stacked against them? There's also the matter of Kanu's supporters. They're watching closely, waiting to see what happens next. For them, this trial is about more than just Kanu's freedom. It's about their future, about the possibility of an independent Biafra. The outcome of this case could galvanize a movement that has been simmering for years, or it could mark the end of a chapter in the struggle for secession. But one thing is certain: whatever happens, Kanu's supporters will be paying close attention to the court's every move. And this brings us to a crucial question. What does justice really mean in Nigeria? If a court can ignore Supreme Court decisions and proceed with charges based on laws that are no longer valid, what does that say about the fairness of the system? This is why Kanu's fight isn't just about one man. It's about ensuring that justice is applied fairly to everyone, regardless of their political beliefs, their background, or their status.
The people of Nigeria have been living with a justice system that often seems more interested in maintaining power than in upholding the law. Corruption, inefficiency, and a lack of transparency have made many question whether the system works for them. And now, with Kanu's case, the flaws in the system are being put on full display. His challenge isn't just about a legal defense, it's about holding the system accountable, about asking the hard questions that many have been afraid to ask. But here's the twist. Kanu, in making this challenge, is doing more than just highlighting the problems in the system. He's also providing a blueprint for how to fight back. By calling out the flaws in the legal process, he's showing that you can challenge authority, you can question the rules, and you can demand that the system live up to its promises.
And for many Nigerians who feel powerless in the face of injustice, that's an important lesson. Now, let's talk about the future. What happens next? Well, if Kanu's legal team succeeds in their efforts, we could see the charges against him dismissed, or at least significantly reduced. But if the court decides to move ahead with the case, it will only further fuel the fire of those who believe the system is corrupt. Either way, the impact of this case will be felt for years to come. It could reshape the way Nigerians think about their justice system, and it could lead to reforms that many believe are desperately needed. This case is not just about Nnamdi Kanu. It's about the very foundation of Nigeria's legal system. It's about the rule of law, about whether the courts can be trusted to uphold justice,
and about whether the government can be held accountable for its actions. It's about the power of the people to challenge a system that doesn't work for them, and about the responsibility of the government to make sure that justice is applied fairly to everyone. As we watch this case unfold, we'll be watching not just for Kanu's fate, but for the fate of the Nigerian justice system itself. Will it emerge stronger, with more confidence from the public, or will it crumble under the weight of its own contradictions and failures? Only time will tell. So, what do you think? Do you agree with Kanu's assessment that the court is ignoring the law? Or do you think he's just trying to find a loophole to avoid facing the charges? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe for more updates on this case and all the latest news.